I should have known trouble was coming the moment he smirked at me in the crowded lecture hall, like he had been waiting for this exact moment for years. Or maybe the universe just had a sick sense of humor, throwing him back into my life after I'd spent so long convincing myself he was just a ghost from the past. Ethan Cole. My first crush. My first heartbreak. The boy who borrowed my pen in sophomore year of high school and then borrowed my peace of mind for years after. And now here he was, standing in front of me like nothing had changed, leaning against the desk with that infuriating grin, saying the words that knocked the air right out of my chest. You still owe me a date, Liam. The last time I saw Ethan was senior year. He had been the star football captain, effortless charmer, the boy everyone gravitated toward without even realizing it. I had been the quiet one, the kid who blended into the back of the classroom, always scribbling in notebooks, always pretending I was fine with being invisible. Except to him, it had started with something stupid. Forgot his pen. He leaned over, asked if he could borrow mine. I handed it over, trying to act like it wasn't a big deal, even though my fingers brushed his for a second and my heart decided to slam itself against my ribs like it was auditioning for a rock concert. He smiled at me, said thanks, and I swear, for the first time in my life, I felt seen. Of course, life isn't a movie. He gave me attention, but never enough to mean anything. We weren't friends. Not really. Just something else. Something unspoken. He'd tease me in the hallways, sit next to me in class sometimes when he could have sat anywhere else. Once, when I dropped my books, he helped me pick them up and whispered, "You're too serious all the time, Liam. Smile more. It looks good on you." And I did smile. For him. Always for him. But then came prom, and he walked in with a girl on his arm, cheerleader, perfect, glowing. I had stood in the shadows, watching, trying not to let it kill me, trying not to admit that the stupid little flame in my chest had just been stomped out. After that, I avoided him. After graduation, we went separate ways. I told myself that was it. That was closure. Until today. The lecture hall was buzzing with chatter. Everyone finding their seats, laptops opening, coffee cups balanced on desks. I had just slipped into the back row, ready to disappear into anonymity like always, when he appeared. Ethan Cole. Older now, sharper around the edges, but still devastatingly familiar. His hair a little shorter, his jaw more defined, but those eyes bright, reckless, magnetic, still the same. He saw me instantly, like he'd been looking. Like he'd been waiting. Liam. His voice cut through the noise, and suddenly everyone was looking at me, even though I wanted to vanish into the floor. I swallowed. Ethan. He grinned, stepping closer, lowering his voice just for me. Knew I'd find you here. You still owe me. I blinked. Excuse me? That date. His smile widened, and I hated that my chest betrayed me with a skip. You remember. Back in high school, you promised me a date if I returned your pen. I stared at him, heat crawling up my neck. That was a joke. You made a joke. He leaned in, close enough that I caught the faint scent of his cologne. Something woodsy. Something that made it impossible to think straight. Maybe, but I'm cashing it in now. And just like that, my carefully built walls started to crack. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter. That it was just Ethan being Ethan, playing games like he always did. But the thing is, when you've spent years pretending not to want someone, denial becomes second nature. The first week of classes, he kept showing up. Not just in lecture, but everywhere. At the library, leaning against the shelves like he had all the time in the world. At the coffee shop near campus, sliding into the seat across from me before I could protest. At the gym, grinning as if he'd planned the coincidence. Are you following me? I finally snapped one afternoon as we both left the student union. Don't flatter yourself. He shoved his hands in his pockets, but the corner of his mouth twitched. Okay, maybe a little. Why? Because you still owe me. I rolled my eyes, but deep down, the ache in my chest was dangerous. Because part of me wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that this was more than a game. That maybe, just maybe, the boy who once broke my heart was back to fix it. But it wasn't that simple. Being with Ethan, even just being seen near him, meant whispers. The campus wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. People talked. I heard it when I walked past. The football hero from high school, still magnetic, still adored, now hanging around some nobody with glasses and a reputation for disappearing into his books. And worse, there was the fear. Fear of wanting too much. Fear of being hurt again. Fear that he would get bored and leave like he always did. One night, as we walked across campus, autumn leaves crunching underfoot, he stopped suddenly. "Do you hate me, Liam?" The question punched the air out of me. What? Back then. His voice was quiet, different, vulnerable. High school. "Do you hate me for the way I acted?" I should have said yes. I should have told him that he ruined me, that he made me feel like nothing and everything all at once. But the truth clawed its way out instead. "No, I don't hate you." He stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of his breath. "Then stop running." And before I could stop myself, I did. For the first time in years, I let him catch me. The kiss happened later, under the glow of a street lamp, when neither of us could pretend anymore. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was asking a question with his lips and waiting for me to answer. And when I kissed him back, it felt like finally exhaling after holding my breath for years. But happiness isn't simple. Not when the world is watching. Not when the past still lingers like a shadow. Because the truth is, Ethan wasn't just here for me. He had his own demons. His own reasons for finding me now. And as much as I wanted to believe in the fairy tale, I knew Act 2 was waiting, the part where everything falls apart before it can be put back together. And God help me, I was already in too deep. I thought the kiss would fix everything. I thought it would glue the cracks, seal the wounds, rewrite the years we had lost. But kisses are not magic spells, and real life is not a movie. Sometimes, a kiss is just the beginning of the storm. The morning after, I woke up with my chest tight and my mind in chaos. Ethan had walked me back to my dorm, had pressed one last kiss to my forehead, and left me standing at the door like some idiot who couldn't stop smiling. My roommate didn't ask questions, thank God, but I barely slept. I replayed the moment again and again until the memory was raw, until I was convinced I had imagined it all. But then came the fallout. First, it was little things. Whispers when I walked into the lecture hall. Stares when Ethan sat next to me, like the entire room couldn't believe the golden boy had chosen me. A few snickers in the cafeteria when he carried my tray because my hands were full. And then, one afternoon, I overheard it. "Why's he hanging out with Cole? Dude, he's like nobody. Just some geek who hides in the library." Maybe Cole lost a bet. Laughter. Mean sharp, familiar. It was high school all over again, only worse because now I didn't just feel invisible, I felt exposed. I tried to shrug it off, but Ethan noticed. He always noticed. "You're quiet," he said one night as we sat by the fountain outside the library. The water shimmered under the lamplight, and his face looked softer than I'd ever seen it. "What's going on in that head of yours?" "Nothing. Liam." His voice was firm, almost pleading. "Talk to me." I stared at the rippling water. "Why me, Ethan? Out of everyone, why are you here with me?" For a moment he didn't answer. Then he leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Because I never stopped thinking about you." My chest clenched. "Don't lie. I'm not." His eyes met mine, steady and unflinching. "I know I screwed up back then. I know I hurt you. But Liam, you were the only person who ever looked at me and saw me. Not the quarterback. Not the guy everyone wanted something from. Just me. And I was too much of a coward to admit how much that meant." His words should have healed me. They should have lit me up from the inside. But all I could think was, it's too late. Things only got messier. Ethan wasn't the type to hide. He walked beside me on campus, held doors open for me, laughed too loud when I said something dry and sarcastic. He didn't care who saw, but I did. I cared too much. One Friday night, he dragged me to a party at one of the frat houses. "Come on," he insisted, tugging me along like a storm I couldn't stop. "It'll be fun." It wasn't. The music was too loud, the air thick with sweat and alcohol. People danced, shouted, stumbled through the crowded rooms. I stuck close to the wall, clutching a plastic cup of soda like a lifeline, while Ethan mingled effortlessly, fist-bumping old teammates, tossing jokes that made everyone laugh. Then it happened. Cole, a girl with blonde curls, threw her arms around him, nearly spilling her drink. God, it's been forever. He hugged her back, grinning, and for a second, I saw it all again: the prom night, the cheerleader on his arm, the way my heart had shattered in silence. I turned away, slipping out into the cold night air before anyone could see the panic on my face. Ethan found me sitting on the curb, my head in my hands. "You okay?" he asked gently, crouching beside me. "Why am I here?" I snapped before I could stop myself. "Why do you keep pulling me into your world like I belong there, when we both know I don't?" He flinched, and guilt stabbed at me, but I couldn't take it back. "Liam, you're popular. You're confident. Everyone loves you. And me? I'm no one. Just the guy who lent you a pen once. That's all I'll ever be." His jaw tightened. For a moment I thought he'd walk away. Instead, he sat down beside me on the curb, his shoulder brushing mine. "You think that's all you are to me?" His voice was low, rough. "God, Liam, do you have any idea how much I wanted to talk to you in high school? How many times I wanted to sit next to you at lunch, or ask you to hang out, or hell even just hold your hand? But I didn't, because I was scared. Scared of what people would say. Scared of being different. Scared of being me." I stared at him, stunned. "I'm not scared anymore," he said simply. "But you are." The words cut deeper than I expected because they were true. The following week was hell. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. Someone snapped a picture of us walking out of the library together and posted it online with the caption, "Cole's new boyfriend?" It racked up likes and comments in minutes. By Monday, everyone had seen it. I couldn't breathe walking across campus. Couldn't focus in class. Couldn't stop hearing the whispers. That night, I snapped. "Stop it, Ethan," I shouted when he showed up at my dorm again, grinning like nothing was wrong. My roommate had wisely vanished, leaving us alone. "Stop pretending like this is normal. Like people aren't talking. Like my entire life hasn't just been turned upside down because of you." His smile faded. "Liam, no. You don't get it. You've always been the guy people love. If they find out you're into guys, maybe they'll gossip for a week, maybe they'll joke, but then it'll pass. You'll still be Ethan Cole. But me, I'll be nothing. I'll be a joke." The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, he said softly, "You think I don't know what it's like? You think it's easy for me? My dad doesn't talk to me anymore, Liam. Not since he found out last summer. He called me a disappointment. Told me I was throwing my life away. Do you have any idea what it feels like to lose your family because of who you are?" I froze. The anger drained from me, replaced by something heavier. Something raw. Ethan's voice cracked. "You're not nothing to me. You're the only thing that feels real. And if you can't see that, then maybe I really don't deserve you." And just like that, he left. The days after were empty. I went to class, studied, kept my head down, but it all felt hollow. I missed him. I missed his laugh, his warmth, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. But fear is a powerful thing. Keeps you trapped, even when your heart is begging you to run free. It wasn't until I saw him again, really saw him, that everything cracked open. It was raining, the kind of cold autumn rain that soaks you to the bone. I was leaving the library, books clutched under my jacket, when I spotted him across the quad, standing there, drenched, arguing with someone I recognized from the football team. The guy shoved him hard. Ethan stumbled back, fists clenched, eyes blazing. "You think you're better than us now?" the guy sneered. "Parading around with that loser? You're pathetic, Cole." Something inside me snapped. Before I knew it, I was running across the quad, books forgotten, heart pounding. I shoved myself between them, rain streaming down my face. "Leave him alone," I shouted, louder than I thought possible. My voice echoed through the storm. "You don't get to talk about him like that. You don't know him." The guy sneered, muttered something under his breath, and walked away, leaving us standing there in the rain. Ethan stared at me, stunned. And then, slowly, he smiled. Not his cocky grin, not his teasing smirk, but something softer. Something real. "You came," he whispered. I was shaking. From the cold, from fear, from everything. But I met his eyes and said the words I had been too afraid to say for years. "I'm done running." And then, in the pouring rain, I kissed him. But the fight wasn't over. If anything, it was just beginning. Because being together meant choosing each other against the world. And we both knew the world wouldn't make it easy. Rain has a way of washing things cleaner, at least making you believe it can. But when I kissed Ethan in that storm, when my lips clashed with his under the weight of thunder and whispers, it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like defiance. Like daring the world to tear us apart. And the world answered. The photo surfaced the next morning. Someone had snapped at me and Ethan kissing in the rain. Our bodies pressed close. His hand on my cheek like I was the only person that mattered. The angle was perfect. Too perfect. Whoever took it had been waiting. It spread like wildfire. By noon, the picture was everywhere. Group chats, Instagram stories, campus gossip blogs. I didn't even need to check my phone to know. I could feel the weight of 100 eyes on me as I walked to class. People whispered, some snickered, others just stared. And when I reached the lecture hall, I saw it someone had taped the photo to the wall, printed out in cheap black and white, with the words fairytale couple scrawled across it in marker. Everyone laughed when they walked past. My hands shook as I tore it down, crumpling it into my bag, my throat tight. I sat in the back row, head low, wishing I could disappear. And then Ethan walked in. He saw me, saw the photo still clutched in my fist. And without hesitation, he walked to the front of the lecture hall, turned to face everyone, and said loudly, "Yeah, that's me. That's us. You got a problem with it?" The room went silent. Shock rippled across the faces. Then someone snickered, someone else muttered, and the buzz started again. But Ethan didn't flinch. He just sat down next to me, shoulders squared, jaw set like steel. I should have felt safe, proud. But instead, I felt exposed. Because while Ethan could stand tall against the storm, I was drowning in it. That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed with notifications, some messages supportive, most cruel. Strangers called me names, joked about me, dissected me like I was nothing but an object of ridicule. And then came the text from my father. Saw the photo. Call me. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told my family. I hadn't told anyone. I called, hands trembling, and he answered on the first ring. "Is it true?" His voice was sharp, cold. I hesitated. "Dad, don't lie to me, Liam. Is it true?" Silence stretched. My chest ached. Finally, I whispered, "Yes." The silence that followed was worse than yelling. Worse than anything. Then he said, "You're throwing your life away. Do you understand that? You think this phase is going to give you a future? It won't. People will eat you alive. Do you want to be a joke for the rest of your life?" My throat burned. It's not a phase. But he didn't hear me. Or maybe he didn't want to. He hung up, leaving me with nothing but the sound of my own ragged breathing. The next day, I avoided Ethan. I ignored his texts, skipped the spots I knew he'd be. I buried myself in books, in silence, in the suffocating darkness that told me maybe my father was right. Maybe I was ruining everything. But Ethan wasn't the type to let go. He cornered me outside the library, his eyes blazing. "Why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not." "Bullshit." He grabbed my wrist, gentle but firm. "Talk to me, Liam." I yanked away, the words spilling out like poison. This was a mistake. All of it. I can't do this, Ethan. I'm not like you. I can't just stand in front of the world and act like I don't care what they say. I do care. It's tearing me apart. His face crumpled, like I just punched him. "So what, you're giving up? Just like that?" "I'm protecting myself." "From what?" "From me." His voice cracked. "Liam, but I couldn't listen." I walked away, leaving him standing there in the fading light, rain still dripping from the trees like the sky itself was crying for us. Days turned into a blur. I avoided him, avoided the stairs, avoided myself. The campus grew colder as autumn bled into winter, and every time I passed the fountain or the quad, I remembered him. His laugh, his hand brushing mine, the way he looked at me like I was worth something. But the fear was louder. Until the night I saw him again, not by choice but by accident. I was walking home from the library, bundled in my jacket, when I spotted him through the window of the coffee shop across the street. He was sitting alone, a cup of coffee untouched in front of him, staring at his phone with an expression I'd never seen before. He looked broken, and it hit me, sharp and merciless. I wasn't the only one hurting. I didn't go inside. Couldn't. Cowardice still clung to me like a second skin. But I went back to my dorm and sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling, fighting the war inside me. Because the truth was undeniable. I loved him, not the high school crush version, not the fantasy I'd built in my head. The real him, the stubborn, reckless, infuriating, beautiful mess of him. The boy who borrowed my pen. The man who stood in a lecture hall and claimed me in front of everyone. The person who looked at me like I wasn't invisible. And maybe that was worth the risk. The breaking point came sooner than I expected. One evening, I was leaving class when I heard shouting near the football field. I followed the sound, heart pounding, and found Ethan surrounded by 3 guys, his old teammates. "You think you're better than us now, Cole?" One of them sneered. "Walking around like some saint just because you're screwing that nerd?" Ethan stood tall, fists clenched. "Say what you want about me. Leave him out of it." But they didn't. One shoved him, another jeered, the third raised a fist. And before I could think, I was running, throwing myself between them. "Stop!" I shouted, my voice shaking. "Leave him alone." They froze, startled. And then one of them laughed. "Look, his little boyfriend came to save him." I was shaking, terrified, but I didn't move. "Yeah, I did. And if you've got a problem with him, then you've got a problem with me." The words came out stronger than I felt, but they were enough. The guys muttered, shoved past us, and disappeared into the night. Ethan turned to me, his eyes wide, his breath ragged. "Why?" he whispered. "Because I'm done being scared," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm done running. I don't care what people say, Ethan. I love you." The words hung in the air, raw and trembling. And then his arms were around me, pulling me close, his lips crashing into mine like a storm finally breaking. That night, in the quiet of his apartment, we didn't need words. We held each other like lifelines, like survivors clinging to the wreckage. And for the first time, I let myself believe in us. But the world doesn't change overnight. The rumors still swirled. My father still refused to call. The stares didn't stop. But somehow, with Ethan beside me, it felt bearable. Because love isn't about the absence of fear. It's about standing in the fire, holding on anyway. And we were just getting started. Love doesn't erase the noise overnight, but it changes the way you hear it. In the weeks after the fight on the football field, something shifted. People still stared, whispered, laughed behind their hands, but it didn't cut as deep. Because every time I faltered, Ethan's hand found mine. Every time I wanted to vanish, his voice grounded me. "Look at me, Liam. Just me. Nobody else matters." And maybe, for the first time, I believed him. But the hardest part wasn't strangers. It was family. My father's silence weighed heavier than the rumors ever could. Each day that passed without a call, without a word, felt like a piece of me was missing. I wanted his approval, his love, even if I hated myself for needing it. One night, I told Ethan. We were lying on his couch, my head against his chest, the hum of the city drifting through the window. "He hasn't called," I whispered. Ethan stroked my hair gently. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't care this much. I should just move on. But he's my dad." "You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt," Ethan said softly. "But you also don't have to let his fear define you. You're not broken, Liam. You're not wrong. You're you." And he paused, his voice thick. "I love you for it." My heart ached, but in the best way. because even if the world refused to see me, Ethan did. Winter settled in, sharp and unforgiving. Snow dusted the campus, covering the old stone buildings in white. Finals loomed, stress mounted, and for once, gossip about us faded under the weight of exams. But the real test wasn't on paper. It came in the form of a phone call, this time not from my father, but from my mother. "Liam," she said softly when I answered. "Your dad showed me the picture." My stomach twisted. "I know." She hesitated. "He doesn't understand. But I just wanted you to know I love you. No matter what." The words cracked me open. For days, I had braced myself against rejection, against silence. To hear love instead, it felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Mom," I whispered, my throat tight. "Thank you." She paused. "Bring him home for Christmas." I froze. "What?" "Bring Ethan," she said firmly. "If he's important to you, I want to meet him. And your father, well, he'll have to face it eventually." I hung up, dazed, my heart pounding. When I told Ethan, his eyes widened. "You sure? I don't want to make things harder for you." I smiled faintly. "You already do, but in the best way." Christmas came with all its chaos. The drive home was tense, snowflakes swirling against the windshield as Ethan tapped nervously on the steering wheel. "What if he hates me?" he muttered. "He already does." I deadpanned, then squeezed his hand. "But my mom doesn't. And maybe that's enough." Walking into my childhood home felt surreal. The walls were the same, the smell of pine needles and cinnamon filling the air. My mother greeted us with open arms, pulling Ethan into a hug that left him speechless. My father, Thuff, barely looked at us. Sat in his chair, silent, eyes fixed on the TV. Dinner was a battlefield of silence. Forks clinked against plates, the only sound in the room. Until my mother, bless her, spoke. "So, Ethan, Liam tells me you're studying political science." Ethan cleared his throat. "Yeah. Thinking about law school after." "That's wonderful," she said warmly. My father grunted, didn't look up. The tension strangled me, until Ethan, of course, broke it. "Mr. Hayes," he said suddenly, his voice steady. "I know you don't approve of me, or of us, but I just want you to know I care about your son. More than anything. I'm not here to hurt him. I'm here because he makes me better. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it, if I have to." The table went silent. My father finally looked at him. Really looked at him. His jaw clenched, eyes cold but not as cold as before. He didn't say a word. But for the first time I saw doubt in his expression. And for now that was enough. The holidays passed in a blur of warmth and sharp edges, of my mother's quiet support and my father's stubborn silence. But when we left, Ethan squeezed my hand and whispered, "That wasn't a no. That's progress." I laughed, shaky but hopeful. Spring arrived with new beginnings. Campus bloomed with cherry blossoms, students sprawled on the grass, and for the first time since that lecture hall confrontation, I didn't feel like hiding, because we weren't hiding anymore. Ethan and I walked together, studied together, fought and made up and kissed under the stars. People still whispered, but the noise had dulled, the way waves retreat after a storm. One evening, we sat by the fountain where it all began. The water sparkled in the fading light, and Ethan leaned close, brushing his lips against my ear. "You know what I realized?" he murmured. "What?" "You never actually repaid me." I frowned. "Repaid you?" He grinned, eyes twinkling. "The pen. You still owe me a date." I rolled my eyes, laughing despite myself. "We've been dating for months." "Doesn't count," he teased. "I want the official one. The one you promised me in high school." I shook my head, smiling. "You're impossible." But the truth was I wanted it too. So we did it. A week later, we went on our first date. Not the accidental library hangouts, not the stolen kisses in the rain, but a real, planned, official date. Dinner at a small Italian restaurant, candlelight flickering between us, his hand brushing mine across the table. It wasn't perfect, the waiter spilled water. I knocked over the breadbasket, Ethan cracked a dumb joke that made the couple at the next table glare. But it was ours. And by the time he walked me back to my dorm, the night air cool and sweet, I realized something. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were living. The semester ended, then another began. Life moved forward, messy and unpredictable. My father still struggled, but sometimes he called stilted conversations, awkward silences, but calls nonetheless. My mother kept cheering us on. Friends began to accept us. The whispers faded into background noise. And through it all, Ethan stayed. He borrowed my pens, stole my hoodies, dragged me to football games even though I hated them. He held me when I panicked, teased me when I brooded, kissed me when I least expected it. He became my home. One night, as we lay tangled together, he whispered, "You know, I think you were always the one who saved me, not the other way around." I pressed a kiss to his shoulder, my heart full. Then I guess we saved each other. And maybe that's what love is. Not perfection, not fairy tales, but two flawed people, daring to hold on in a world that tells them to let go. He borrowed my pen once. I gave him my heart after, and I don't regret a thing. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.